This is the story of my late grandmother, a convert to Christianity. She had hypertension and diabetes. At the time of this story, my grandmother was about 70 years old. Before she fell ill and passed away, she often had episodes of rambling and sudden outbursts of anger without any reason. She lived with us because my mother was tasked with taking care of her, as my mother's siblings were busy with their jobs. My mother was a homemaker. We faced many challenges while taking care of her. Sometimes she would get angry at us without any apparent reason. She would throw tantrums and even try to leave the house. Once, while we were all occupied with our own tasks, she managed to crawl out of the house without us noticing, almost reaching halfway down our neighborhood street. A neighbor's child had to help my brother carry her back home, all the while she was angrily rambling at us. One afternoon while I was at work, my mum called to inform me that my grandmother had fainted in the bathroom. She regained consciousness later but could no longer speak or move. That evening, after I returned home, we called an ambulance to take her to the hospital. She was admitted to the hospital, and my mum stayed with her for 3 to 4 days. The doctors had little hope, but my grandmother kept holding on. My mum and her siblings eventually decided to bring her home, where my mom and dad took care of her, changing her diapers, feeding her milk, and administering her medication. On the second night after she was brought home, my aunt, my mum's eldest sister, brought a few spiritual healers to our house because we suspected something was affecting my grandmother. After about 20 minutes of discussion, the healers began performing a cleansing ritual on her. At that time, my other aunt, the wife of my youngest uncle, and I stood by the window of my grandmother's room which faced the kitchen. We saw a young man, probably in his 20s, muttering prayers under his breath. Suddenly, he made movements as if pulling something invisible. Then, he appeared to place something into a water bottle and quickly sealed it. He did this twice, placing something unseen into the bottle, though to the naked eye, it appeared empty. The young man was drenched in sweat, as if fighting off an unseen force. On his third attempt, whatever he was trying to catch escaped. After the ritual ended, we gathered outside the house, and the healer explained what had happened. It turned out that 3 spirits had been residing in my grandmother's body, passed down from her ancestors. The healer successfully removed 2 of them, but the third escaped and couldn't be captured. The next day, my mom and aunt went out to buy diapers for my grandmother. Only my dad stayed home to watch over her. He checked on her every few minutes, either by going into her room or looking through the kitchen window. At one point, just a few minutes after leaving her room, he glanced through the window and noticed her chest wasn't moving. Rushing in, he checked her nose and chest, confirming that she was no longer breathing. He quickly called my mom and aunt, who returned home immediately. I also came home early that day. By the time I arrived, a nurse and a paramedic had confirmed my grandmother's passing. We were fortunate that the spirits had been removed from her body and didn't find a new host to continue their existence. However, the one that escaped still lingers, occasionally making its presence felt around our home.